I never thought I'd be the kind of guy sitting on his back porch, drinking a beer at 10 a.m., watching the sprinkler sputter out of sync, and wondering if his marriage was quietly rotting under his nose. But here I am. The dog left me, the neighbors pity me, and I still wave back like I'm not slowly unraveling inside. I used to have a good life. Predictable. Steady. A mortgage, a grill I was proud of, and a wife who used to laugh at my terrible jokes like I was the funniest man alive. Her name's Brenda. Brenda Calhoun when I met her, Brenda Cross when she took my last name. And let me tell you something, Brenda is the kind of woman who turns heads in grocery store aisles. I'm not talking about movie star looks. I mean she walks with that weird mix of grace and power that makes men straighten up and women scan their own reflection in the freezer doors. I met her in line at the DMV, of all places. Both of us miserable. Both of us too stubborn to leave. She said something sarcastic about how bureaucracy might be the closest thing to purgatory, and I said, well, at least there's fluorescent lighting. She laughed. We ended up grabbing lunch. And then dinner. And then life just folded into itself, like it was always meant to include us side by side. That was 9 years ago. We've been married for 6. And somewhere between year 4 and 5, something shifted. Not all at once. More like a slow leak in a tire you don't notice until the steering pulls hard right. At first, it was just the usual suspects. She stopped texting me back right away. Then came the long days at work. She's in nonprofit event planning, which means she's always planning things that somehow never show up on the shared Google Calendar. Then she got weirdly into podcasts. Obsessively into them. Every moment in the car, in the kitchen, even while brushing her teeth. I couldn't get a word in. Not that I was trying all that hard. But the real kicker? Her phone. Yeah, I know. I said we're not doing the whole I found it on her phone cliché. And we're not. Because I didn't. She keeps the thing tighter than Fort Knox. Facial recognition only. Always face down. Always locked up like it's carrying state secrets. But no, I didn't find texts or racy photos. That would have been too easy. Brenda's smarter than that. Calculated. Cold when she needs to be. She doesn't slip up like that. At least not yet. We live in Cedar Glen, a mid-sized town outside Charlotte, North Carolina. One of those neighborhoods with white fences, moms that jog in packs, and barbecues where everyone pretends their marriage is great. Mine used to be. Or maybe I just thought it was. Hard to say now. Looking back, I can see the cracks even in the good years. But hindsight's funny that way. Brenda doesn't know I'm suspicious. Or maybe she does and she's just that good at pretending. She still smiles when I take the trash out. Still kisses my cheek when she walks out the door in heels I haven't seen in years. Still calls me babe, like it means something. But here's the thing. When someone you love changes, you feel it in your bones before your brain catches up. It's like watching a familiar movie, but the scenes are out of order and the lines are all slightly wrong. You can't prove it, not at first, but you know something's off. Something's missing. I started keeping track. Not like a psycho with a spreadsheet. Just observations. She started going to Pilates twice a week. Then 3. Then suddenly it was, I'm grabbing drinks with Ashley after class, except Ashley lives in Charleston now. She started wearing makeup to run errands. Different perfume. And I swear, she started humming again, but not the songs we used to dance to. New ones. Lighter ones. Songs that don't belong to her history. And all the while, I stayed in my lane. Took out the trash. Paid the mortgage. Fixed the leaky faucet. I played the role of Stephen Cross, loyal husband and dependable man, because that's what you do, right? You don't jump to conclusions. You wait for the facts. You believe in your spouse until you can't. But lately, I find myself hoping she slips up, not because I want to catch her, but because this limbo, this feeling like I'm the only one trying to keep the boat afloat, is eating me alive. She still calls me from the car like she used to. But there's a delay now. A pause before she speaks, like she has to flip a switch and remember who she's supposed to be. And I play along. I always play along. Because it's easier to pretend you're not being lied to than it is to admit the truth. The person you built your life around might be slowly phasing you out. But then something happened. Something small. Almost invisible if you're not looking for it. See, Brenda prints her own return labels from our home office. She does all this nonprofit fundraising. And half the time she's sending stuff back and forth from suppliers and vendors. Nothing unusual. Except she used my laptop last week because hers was acting up. I didn't think anything of it. She logged into her Amazon account, printed the label, shut it down. But she didn't log out. Now, I'm not a snooper. I don't dig. I don't have the energy. But when I opened my laptop the next day and saw that little card icon still logged into her profile, I hesitated. Curiosity is a hell of a drug. I clicked. Nothing major. A few house items. A throw pillow. Some hand cream. Then I noticed the recently viewed list. A book. Out of place. Rebuilding Trust After Betrayal. A Therapist's Guide to Healing Broken Marriages. I stared at that title for 5 straight minutes. Now, there are 2 options here. 1. Brenda's cheating. 2. Brenda's been cheated on. But here's what I know. I haven't cheated. And I haven't betrayed her. So why the hell is she looking at a book like that? I didn't say anything. I didn't even close the window. I just stared at it until the screen dimmed and my reflection looked back at me like a stranger. That was 3 days ago. Since then, I've done nothing but think. Rehearse conversations in my head. Scenarios. Excuses. Maybe she bought it for a friend? Maybe she's doing research for work? Maybe I'm overreacting? But here's the kicker: this morning, she deleted her Amazon account. Not the orders. The whole damn account. Now you tell me, who does that? I don't have proof. Not yet. But something is coming. I can feel it. And when it does, I won't be the quiet guy on the back porch anymore. I'm not planning to sit here and just take it like a man. That's not how this ends. Not for Stephen Cross. The story doesn't start with the cheating. It starts with the silence before the storm. The quiet hum of a life built on routines and roles, and the slow realization that something inside your house is broken, and it's not something duct tape can fix. So buckle up, because whatever's going on with Brenda, I'm going to find out. And when I do, let's just say I've got a few surprises of my own. Brenda doesn't lie outright. That's not her style. She does the more dangerous thing. She tells you just enough truth to keep your suspicions manageable. It's not, I'm working late. It's, we're having a team debrief after the fundraiser. It's not, I'll be out all afternoon. It's just running errands. Want anything? She leaves just enough breadcrumbs so it sounds like a life. A busy, productive, put-together life. And I was dumb enough to keep sweeping those crumbs off the counter and tossing them in the trash. But not anymore. After the Amazon thing, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to tip her off. Whatever game she was playing, I wanted to watch her play it thinking the audience was asleep. That's when the pattern started to show. Every other Tuesday, like clockwork, Brenda would disappear for 3 hours. No explanation, no calendar alert, just a vanishing act. I started calling it the Tuesday Vortex. One week it was a meeting with vendors, the next it was site visits. And every time she left, she wore that same pair of dark jeans and a beige sweater with the sleeves pushed up. She had 6 blouses that made her look like she owned the room. But no, these were her, just blend-in clothes. Her errand uniform. I started keeping track. I'd note the time she left, the time she came back, her demeanor. Sometimes she returned upbeat, sometimes moody, like she'd just been handed a reality check she hadn't ordered. But never guilty. Brenda doesn't do guilty. She does, irritated. Like she's annoyed with herself for still pretending. On a whim, I started digging through the recycling bin the next morning. Not proud of it. But hey, if I'm the guy you judge for fishing paper out of his own trash, maybe you've never been cheated on in slow motion. I found a receipt, slightly waterlogged but readable. One line item stood out. Magnolia Digital Productions, USB delivery fee. USB? Now, this isn't a movie. I didn't run to the business and find a smoking gun. Instead, I did the rational thing. I Googled the company. Turns out it's a boutique digital media firm. Weddings, engagement videos, corporate reels. They even do personal memory compilations. Think 50th anniversary slideshow, now with tear-jerking music and professional-grade editing. Seemed harmless until I noticed one tab on their site labeled Private Projects. You click it and it asks for a client login. There's a box for client code and a USB download request option. And suddenly the Tuesday Vortex started to make sense. So I made a fake inquiry from a burner email, asked what kind of private projects they do. Got a reply from a cheerful assistant named Tina who said, "We work with clients who want discreet, elegant archiving of personal milestones or moments meant for a limited audience." That's a lot of careful phrasing. I wasn't born yesterday. I replied, "Would you say it's mostly romantic stuff?" She wrote back one line. Romantic is one word for it. I stared at the screen. So Brenda was logging private time with someone, getting it professionally edited, and paying for USB delivery so the whole thing stayed off the cloud. She wasn't just cheating. She was curating it. Let that sink in. You ever see your spouse walk into the room and realize you don't know them at all? That happened on a Thursday. She walked in wearing that same beige sweater. Sat on the couch, flipped through her phone, looked up at me and smiled. Said, "We need to change the air filters this weekend." And all I could think was, who the hell are you documenting memories with? That weekend, I made up a story about needing to visit my brother in Asheville. I don't have a brother in Asheville. I just needed a reason to be gone that didn't involve suspicion. I left Saturday morning, circled the block twice, then parked behind the abandoned pharmacy lot 2 blocks over. Then I waited. At exactly 12:48 p.m., Brenda left. Beige sweater, dark jeans, sunglasses. She drove our second car, the gray Camry, not her usual CRV. That's when I knew this wasn't brunch with the girls. This was tactical. I followed at a distance. I'd practiced the route dozens of times in my head, just in case it ever came to this. She drove 15 minutes out of town to a strip mall in an office park. Magnolia Digital Productions. Real place. Blue awning. Discreet entrance. No sign of business hours. She parked. Got out. Knocked. A guy in khakis opened the door. Not a romantic type. Looked more like the IT guy for a dentist's office. But Brenda smiled. They shook hands. She stepped inside. I waited 23 minutes. She came back out holding a white envelope. Got in the car. Drove home like it was just another Saturday. I waited another hour before I left. Took the long way back. Stopped at a gas station. Bought a Slurpee I didn't want. I needed time to think. At 7 p.m., we sat across from each other at dinner. She'd made chicken marsala. Her version. No cream. She said, "How was Asheville?" And I said, "Quiet." Then I asked, "You do anything interesting while I was gone?" She didn't flinch. Laundry. Took a walk. Ran by the post office. The post office. Sure. Maybe they've got a romance section now. That night, I waited for her to fall asleep. I stood in the hallway and listened to her breathe. Then I walked to the home office. Checked the mail pile. There it was, white envelope. Return label to Magnolia Digital Productions, marked Private Client Delivery. No name on it. I didn't open it. Not because I didn't want to. Because I wanted to wait until I had all the pieces. So I did the next best thing. I took it to a tech friend, Neil, who runs the IT department at my company. I told him Brenda was working on a surprise project, and I just wanted to make sure the USB wasn't corrupted. He didn't ask questions. Ran it through a private scan system. What he found? A video. 4.5 minutes long. Titled, October 19th, M. He didn't open it. Just told me the size, the timestamp, the format. Then handed it back and said, "Whatever this is, you sure you want to watch it?" I said no, but I would. The next morning, I drove to a private storage unit I'd rented. Popped in the USB. Plugged in my laptop. Took a deep breath. The video wasn't graphic. Nothing like that. Just Brenda laughing. Leaning against a stone railing I didn't recognize. Her hair tied back. No wedding ring. And beside her? Marcus. Her ex-husband. Marcus. The same man she swore she'd never speak to again. The same man who showed up drunk to her mother's funeral and had to be escorted out by 2 cousins. The same Marcus she once described as a bad chapter in a book I've already burned. There they were, side by side, laughing like high schoolers. At the end, he kissed her cheek. She smiled. The camera panned away. Someone else had been filming it. I sat there in that freezing storage unit for a long time. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just done. I walked out. Left the USB in the laptop. Closed the unit. Drove home. She was in the kitchen, pouring coffee. I said, "Hey." She turned. "Hey yourself." I looked at her. Really looked. Not at her clothes or her hair or her fake smile. I looked at the space behind her eyes. Empty. Something had died there. And I didn't kill it. But I was going to bury it. And I wasn't going to wait long. Next Tuesday, I'd act. Because when you find out your wife is documenting her affair like it's a damn photo shoot, you don't sit on that kind of betrayal. You make it count. Tuesday came quicker than I thought it would. The kind of quick that comes when your stomach's tight and your brain's buzzing like a bad fluorescent light. I didn't sleep much the night before. Not because I was nervous, but because I wasn't. That was the part that scared me. I wasn't hurt anymore. I wasn't angry. I was just ready. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't land all at once. It comes in waves. At first you drown. Then you start floating. Then, at some point, you realize you've been treading water alone for years, and your so-called partner was never coming to save you. That's the moment you stop looking for land and start plotting your swim back to shore without them. I woke up before Brenda, got dressed, made coffee, Toasted a bagel I didn't eat. Then I waited. At 7:38 a.m., Brenda shuffled into the kitchen wearing her robe and slippers, hair still wet from her shower. She kissed my cheek like she always did, just muscle memory now, like turning on a light switch. "Morning," she mumbled. "Morning." She poured her coffee. Black. No sugar. No cream. No soul. She sat at the kitchen island, scrolled through her phone, probably checking her email or texting Marcus or watching another productivity video about how to balance passion and partnership while sleeping with your ex on a park bench. I cleared my throat. "You got anything planned today?" "Usual stuff. Vendor meeting. Picking up some signage for the gala. I might be late." Sounds busy. Always is." Sip. Scroll. Total nonchalance. I looked at her and said, I've been thinking a lot about trust lately." That got her attention. She froze. Just for a second. Subtle. But it was there. She looked up slowly, that cautious little smile creeping across her face like she was rewinding a story in her head to make sure it still held water. "Oh," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "I mean, it's everything, right? Marriage, I mean. You either have it or you don't." Brenda nodded, setting her mug down. "Of course. Trust is foundational." Foundational. There's a word cheaters love. Sounds noble, sounds steady, sounds like something you'd engrave on a pillow at Crate and Barrel. Meanwhile, her foundation had been leaking for months. I watched her for a beat. Then I said, "So, how long have you and Marcus been back in touch?" Now, if you ever want to watch a person's soul briefly exit their body, that's the sentence. She blinked. Her fingers stopped moving. Her mouth opened slightly, no words, just the soft static of someone whose operating system just crashed. "What are you talking about?" she said, way too calm. I smiled. "You know what I'm talking about." She laughed then. Actually laughed. A short, breathy little scoff like she was both insulted and amused. "Stephen, I haven't spoken to Marcus in years." "Interesting," I said, nodding slowly. "Because I saw him. On video. With you. On a USB drive delivered to our house. You remember? White envelope, Magnolia Digital Productions. Great lighting, by the way. Very tasteful." That's when her face went blank. Just drained. Like a sandcastle hit by a wave. She said nothing. Just stared at me. And I kept going. I didn't watch the whole thing. Didn't need to. You know how I know it's real? Because you smiled in a way I haven't seen in years. Like you were with someone who made you feel, what's the word? Alive. Her mouth twitched. It wasn't what it looked like. "Oh, Brenda, come on," I said, shaking my head. "Let's not insult each other." She stood up, took a deep breath, then sat back down. Her hands were shaking slightly now. She wasn't used to this. She was used to me being predictable, steady, forgiving. But I wasn't playing that part anymore. "Stephen, I didn't mean for it to. Stop. Please." I raised my hand like a referee calling timeout. "Let's not do the whole, it just happened thing. Or that we reconnected as friends thing. Or, God forbid, that you were distant and I needed to feel seen thing. I've seen that script before. Don't care for the ending." She swallowed hard. Her eyes looked wet. Not tears, though. Just panic. "You have no idea what this has been like for me," she said. I laughed. "For you?" Oh, poor Brenda. The woman with two men orbiting her emotional solar system. Must be exhausting juggling your nostalgia and your nonprofit grants. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. "Well, congratulations, you did. You just did it in slow motion, with great production values." She looked away, biting her lip. I could see the wheels turning, calculating the next move. Would she double down? Cry? Deny? Gaslight? None of the above. What she did next? She composed herself, folded her hands on the counter, and looked me dead in the eyes. "I still love you," she said. I blinked. "Well, that's rich." "I do," she insisted. "It's complicated. Marcus, he represents a part of my past I never fully dealt with. And yes, I was weak. And yes, I crossed a line. But that doesn't erase what we have." "What do we have?" I asked, genuinely curious. She paused. "A life. A home. History. Partnership." "Partnership?" I scoffed. "Brenda, you've been co-writing a second romance while I've been paying the electric bill and cleaning gutters. That's not partnership. That's performance art." She didn't respond. I leaned back in my chair. "Let me ask you something and answer carefully. Did you plan to tell me?" She hesitated. That was the answer. I nodded. "Right. I just I didn't know how to stop, she said finally. You could have tried not starting. I felt stuck. Trapped. I didn't want to blow up everything. Well, newsflash, it's already blown. You just hoped I'd never find the shrapnel. She stood up, grabbed her mug, then realized it was empty and sat back down. I watched her. Was it just once? I asked. She shook her head slowly. How long? About a year, she said, voice barely audible. A year. 12 months. 52 Tuesdays. A full calendar cycle of fake smiles and invisible betrayals. And I was just the idiot loading the dishwasher like a damn chump. I stood up, walked to the sink, and stared out the window. You know what hurts the most? I asked, not turning around. What? She said softly. That you made a highlight reel out of it. That you paid someone to make the memory last. She didn't say a word. I turned back to her. You had a choice. To tell the truth. To stop. To own it. And you didn't. So now, I get to choose. Her eyes widened. Stephen. No, I said, cutting her off. You've said enough. I've listened to enough. And with that, I walked out. Not storming. Not yelling. Just done. The worst part about betrayal isn't the act itself. It's realizing how long you were alone without knowing it. How many breakfasts you shared with someone who was already emotionally gone. But now I know. And Brenda? She has no idea what's coming next. Let's just say if she wanted drama, she's about to get a masterclass. Let's get one thing straight right off the bat. I'm not the guy who breaks dishes or sets fire to clothes on the lawn. I don't do rage. I do strategy. I do calm, calculated, surgical strikes. Brenda thought she was playing chess. What she didn't realize was that I built the board. She gave me a gift when she confessed. Well, technically, when I dragged the truth out of her like pulling teeth from a crocodile. But either way, it gave me clarity. Knowing about Marcus, knowing it had been going on for a year, knowing she had the nerve to commission a sentimental video of her adultery like it was a wedding montage that lit something in me I didn't know I had. Not fury. Not heartbreak. Precision. I spent the next 3 days preparing. Step 1 was simple. Let her think I was retreating. I moved into the guest room. No questions. No accusations. I was polite. Cordial. I even asked if she wanted me to grab oat milk from the store like it was just another Thursday. The more normal I acted, the more relieved she looked. She thought I was grieving, processing, maybe even blaming myself. She had no clue I was laying track for the endgame. Here's the thing about Brenda, she hates scenes. She likes to maintain the image. To outsiders, she's the kind of wife who brings homemade scones to HOA meetings. The idea of public embarrassment is her kryptonite, and I was about to wrap it up in a velvet box and hand it to her with a bow. The annual donor gala for her nonprofit was on Saturday. It was their biggest event of the year. 6-figure donors. Local politicians. A glossy article in the Sunday paper with staged photos and self-congratulatory quotes. Brenda had been planning it for months. She had the dress, the team, the entire timeline down to the minute. And guess who designed the slideshow presentation for the night? Yours truly. She'd asked me weeks ago, before I knew about Marcus, before the house of cards collapsed. Just a simple PowerPoint to run behind the speakers, photos from past events, donor spotlights, a highlight reel of their work in the community. She even gave me access to the venue's AV system to test the timing. That, my friends, is what we call poetic setup. So I made the presentation. Flawless. Professional. With one small modification. Let me walk you through how it played out. Saturday night, the event kicked off at 6 p.m. sharp. Brenda wore a navy gown with those sparkly earrings she pulls out for occasions. Her hair curled perfectly. The room looked like something out of a lifestyle magazine. Lights dimmed. Jazz quartet playing softly. Waiters weaving through the crowd with tiny plates of lamb chops and shrimp skewers. Brenda was in her element. Laughing, mingling, holding court like the queen bee of cause-driven society. I arrived 15 minutes late on purpose. Wore the gray suit she always said made me look too serious. Perfect. I wanted serious. I wanted calculated. I greeted a few familiar faces, took my seat in the second row, and waited. At 6:45, Brenda stepped up to the podium. The room hushed. All eyes on her. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her voice warm and commanding. This event is about community, about trust, about the power of showing up for one another when it matters most. Oh, the irony. Behind her, the screen flickered to life. The first slides went as planned, photos of their work, volunteers handing out supplies, kids laughing at a summer camp. The audience nodded along, some even clapped. Then, At slide 17 came the shift. A video file loaded. At first, it looked like another community clip. Then the audio kicked in. Brenda's voice. Laughing. Then Marcus. Then her face, clear as day, smiling up at him, brushing her hand along his jacket, her ring finger bare. No narration. No labels. Just raw footage. The same footage from the USB. Cropped for length. Subtitled, Moments That Matter. The room fell silent. You could hear a fork drop on the carpet. Brenda froze. She turned toward the screen in slow motion, like she couldn't believe her own eyes. When the camera cut to Marcus brushing hair from her face, a collective gasp rippled across the room. She spun back toward me, pale as marble. I didn't blink. The video cut to black. Then the slideshow resumed, slide 18. Thank you for believing in us. Nobody clapped. Brenda stood there, stunned, microphone still in her hand like a weapon she forgot how to use. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Tried again. I'm so sorry. That wasn't supposed to be. The crowd was already shifting. Whispers. Phones out. Heads turning. Some guests stood up and began quietly filing toward the exit. I stood as well. Straightened my jacket. Walked slowly up the center aisle toward her. When I reached the stage, I didn't look at her. I took the mic from her hand and faced the crowd. Apologies for the interruption, I said. Apparently not all moments are meant to be shared, but some deserve the spotlight. Then I handed the mic back to her, nodded politely, and walked out. Didn't run. Didn't storm. Just walked. By the time I reached the car, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Messages from mutual friends, board members, her assistant, even a voicemail from her mother, who apparently saw it live on someone's Instagram story. I turned the phone off. Let her manage the fallout. You see, revenge doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be undeniable. That night, I slept like a baby in the guest room. The next morning, Brenda didn't come home. She texted. Not much. Just, I don't know what to say. I didn't respond. Instead, I emailed her a single PDF file. My formal request for separation. No threats. No drama. Just logistics. You want to spend a year curating lies and archiving your affair? Fine. I'll give you a legacy you won't forget. By Monday, the story was circulating in every corner of her social circle. The board held an emergency meeting. Sponsors pulled funding. Marcus, hero that he is, sent a public message to distance himself from all parties involved. Turns out he was engaged. To someone else. Classic Marcus. Brenda tried to spin it. Claimed it was an old video. That it was taken out of context. That she and Marcus had reconnected briefly, but it was no longer active. She used every trick in the crisis management handbook. But it didn't matter. I didn't have to say a word. The video spoke for itself. And for once, Brenda was the one with no script. You don't recover from being exposed at your own gala. You don't walk back into your job like nothing happened. You certainly don't beg your husband to stay when you spend a year editing him out of your life frame by frame. I gave her exactly what she feared most. Not vengeance. Not violence. Visibility. Now everyone knew. And I'd barely broken a sweat. And the best part? I wasn't done yet. 3 days. That's how long it took before Brenda showed up again. Not a call. Not a knock. She just walked through the door like it was still her house. Her keys hadn't been revoked yet. That was my oversight. But in hindsight, it was useful. Let her walk in. Let her see what a quiet home feels like when the truth's been aired out. It was Wednesday afternoon. I was home early. Work knew something had happened, the kind of something that makes your face look older and your voice tighter. They gave me space. No questions asked, which is more than I can say for the people in Brenda's world. From what I heard, her board put her on leave. Sponsors dropped out like she was radioactive. One of the donors, get this, even forwarded the gala footage to a local gossip podcast. By Tuesday, she was internet famous in a way no nonprofit director wants to be. She walked into the living room wearing sunglasses, despite it being overcast. And not the chic kind, big, clunky things that screamed, "I've cried in a Target parking lot this week." She looked thinner. Or maybe just deflated. Like someone unplugged her sense of control. "Steven," she said, taking the sunglasses off slowly. Her voice was soft. Hoarse. She hadn't spoken to anyone in a while, I could tell. "Brenda." I didn't look up from my laptop. She hovered there by the door, waiting for permission to go further into the house. She used to own this space. Now she didn't know where to stand. "Can we talk?" she asked. I closed my laptop, set it on the table, and leaned back. "You've got 5 minutes." She blinked, surprised. I used to let her monologue for hours. I guess the new Steven wasn't big on indulgence. I don't even know where to start, she said, walking slowly toward the couch. That's a shame. Time's ticking. She flinched, just slightly, and sat on the edge of the cushion like the fabric might accuse her of something. She began, exhaling. I never thought it would go like this. You mean the affair, or the part where you professionally documented it and then got exposed at a gala in front of 3 county commissioners and the entire Charlotte Arts Fund? She winced. Steven, I know you're angry. Try insulted. Angry implies passion. I'm past that. She looked down at her hands. No wedding ring. I wondered when she stopped wearing it. Before the video? Or the same day she handed the footage over to a boutique editing firm for color correction? I've lost everything, she said quietly. No, I corrected. You lost what you chose to gamble. Big difference. Her jaw clenched. You think this is easy for me? I think you had a 12-month head start on this disaster, and now that the consequences are finally catching up, you want to schedule a debrief. She looked up, eyes sharp now. You humiliated me. Oh, please, I said, sitting forward. You did that all on your own. I just made sure the lighting was good. She folded her arms. I made a mistake. No, Brenda. A mistake is forgetting your anniversary. A mistake is overcooking the roast. You made a choice. Repeatedly. You committed to it. You nurtured it. You paid a man to film it like a wedding video. That's not a mistake. That's a project. She was quiet for a long time. Her foot tapped anxiously against the rug. She used to hate when I did that. Why did you do it? I asked. She looked startled. What? You had me. A good marriage. A stable life. I didn't cheat. I didn't yell. I didn't disappear. I showed up every damn day. So why Marcus? She opened her mouth, closed it, then said something I didn't expect. Because he made me feel like myself again. I laughed. Actually laughed. Yourself? You mean the version of you that used to cry in her car after court dates? The one who swore she'd never go back to the guy who ruined her credit and punched a hole in your parents' wall? She didn't respond. I kept going. So what is it? The thrill? The nostalgia? Or just plain boredom? She stood up suddenly. You want honesty? Fine. I was bored. With myself. With my life. And yeah, with us. I nodded slowly. Now we're getting somewhere. She paced. You made everything feel so routine. Safe. And I know that sounds ungrateful. But after a while, I felt like I was living someone else's life. And Marcus offered you a window back into chaos? How romantic. She spun around. I'm not excusing it. I'm not even asking for forgiveness. But I need you to know, I didn't start this thinking it would end us. I thought I could keep both. That I could figure it out. You thought I'd never find out, I corrected. Or you thought I wouldn't do anything if I did. Her shoulders dropped. That was it. That was the truth. I don't know what to do now, she whispered. I looked at her. Really looked. The woman who used to make homemade granola bars for my coworkers. The woman who cried when her favorite plant died. The woman who used to lay in bed and tell me I was the only person who ever made her feel safe. And now? Just a stranger who torched her life and didn't even bring a fire extinguisher. Well, I said, first, you pack a bag. Then you call a lawyer. Then you find a way to live with the fact that you did this to yourself. She stared at me, eyes filling, lips trembling. She took one step forward like she wanted to say something, something that would fix it. Or maybe just break me one last time. But I raised a hand. Stopped her cold. We're not doing the tears, Brenda. Not here. Not in this house. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sure you are. But you're sorry for getting caught. Not for what you did. She flinched. Again. I pointed toward the door. This is your 5-minute warning. She didn't move right away. Just stood there, looking around the room like it was already someone else's. Which, in a way, it was. Finally, she picked up her purse, walked to the door, and paused. You were a good husband, she said. No, I replied. I was a great husband. You were just a terrible partner. She opened the door, walked out. And just like that, the house was mine again. No stage memories. No forced smiles. No beige sweaters vanishing on Tuesdays. Just silence. Real, honest, peaceful silence. And for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. Next up, the conclusion. And trust me, this ending's not what she expected. Subscribe to the channel